Now peasants come in all shapes and colors, and a lot got arrested in the past, cause the sheriff and his posse be profiling, cause we of the lowest social caste. So all I got to say to you flea-bitten, plague-ridden serfs so blindly acquiescent, when an angry mob is forming, what the fuck wilt thou do? Damn, it feels good to be a peasant.
It is Monday, January 15th, 2018. This is the Dissident Peasant Podcast. I'm your host, Jeff, the Dissident Peasant. On today's show, a happy Martin Luther King Day to you and yours. Here to share my thoughts on him in this day, what resonates about him with me, and what I am personally grateful for about his legacy. And I hope that you enjoy it. First, how do I sound? Hopefully good. I have purchased a new microphone for this new year. It is great to be back. You can look forward to this little amateur hour production putting out something for you to listen to of some length and quality, at least weekly, right? There were some delays in getting this microphone shipped and set up, but if you've missed me, I am here. I am not going anywhere. As usual, you can always find me on YouTube as Dissident Peasant at dissidentpeasant.com and through iTunes and whatever other service you use to get your podcast feeds delivered to you. So today is the day that we set aside to honor the legacy of one Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., the famous civil rights activist who really needs no introduction, at least not a detailed one from yours truly, because there are many takes of varying temperature on this man and his legacy. I want to say that to me, personally, I attended a pretty good integrated public school in Georgia. Took classes with and socialized with people of all different races and backgrounds, including Filipino, African American, Chinese, white, Latino. The backgrounds of these people and the experience I had growing up with them, I am incredibly grateful for. It helped me reach a place where I could see all these different types of people as just people. And whatever label you want to put on that recognition of fundamentally universal equality, even if you want to characterize it as the value in all God's children, as Dr. King sometimes put it, and I rarely do. Regardless, I want to encourage that these racial categories that villains use to pit us, peasants, against one another while they jealously guard the fruits of a ravenous system of exploitation, they're arbitrary and they're meaningless when you consider a person's worth. And I have Dr. King's legacy in part to thank me for guiding me to that conclusion. I mention this because one misconception about Dr. King's struggles, even among otherwise well-meaning white people, is as he recedes further into the historic myths, is that his fight was solely about people of color and their rights. His struggle is to force the United States to live up to its rhetoric of liberty and freedom and justice for people of color was and is beneficial to most people, even most white people. Schools with a student population that is more socioeconomically and racially diverse are better than homogenous ones. They're better both because they perform better in terms of testing metrics, other metrics. They also better socialize students for a world that embraces human equality. And that's why the backsliding on this, in terms of the resegregation of American schools, is so incredibly frustrating and dangerous in my mind, because it sets back a lot of really positive trends that school integration has had in this country. Obviously, Dr. Martin Luther King's struggles, they go far beyond just school integration. And he was active in many different intersecting spheres, including being an anti-war activist. And it's in that spirit of anti-war activism. I just want to play you a few minutes of sound. This is Dr. King in this clip excerpted from his speech entitled Beyond Vietnam, A Time to Break the Silence, delivered April 4th, 1967 at Riverside Church in New York City. In this excerpt, he's going to give you a brief overview of the recent history of Vietnam from that point and the point of view of the regular, unimportant mass of peasants living in that country.
I speak now not of the soldiers of each side, not of the ideologies of the Liberation Front, not of the hunting inside gone, but simply of the people who have been living under the curse of war for almost 3 continuous decades now. I think of them too, because it is clear to me that there will be no meaningful solution there until some attempt is made to know them and hear their broken cries. They must see Americans as strange liberators. Vietnamese people proclaimed their own independence in 1954, in 1945 rather, after a combined French and Japanese occupation, and before the Communist Revolution in China. They were led by Ho Chi Minh. Even though they quoted the American Declaration of Independence in their own document of freedom, we refused to recognize them. Instead, we decided to support France in its reconquest of a former colony. Our government felt then that the Vietnamese people were not ready for independence. We again fell victim to the deadly Western arrogance that has caused in the international atmosphere for so long. With that tragic decision, we rejected a revolutionary government seeking self-determination, and a government that had been established not by China, for whom the Vietnamese have no great love, but by clearly indigenous forces that included some communists. For the peasants, this new government meant real land reform, one of the most important needs in their lives. For 9 years following 1945, we denied the people of Vietnam the right of independence. For 9 years, we vigorously supported the French in their abortive effort to recolonize Vietnam. Before the end of the war, we were meeting 80% of the French war cost. Even before the French were defeated at Dien Bien Phu, they began to despair of their reckless action, but we did not. We encouraged them with our huge financial and military supplies to continue the war even after they had lost the will. Soon we would be paying almost the full cost of this tragic attempt at recolonization. After the French were defeated, it looked as if independence and land reform would come again through the Geneva Agreement. But instead there came the United States, determined that whole should not unify the temporarily divided nation. The peasants watched again as we supported one of the most vicious modern dictators, our chosen man, Premier Diem. The peasants watched and cringed as Diem ruthlessly rooted out all opposition, supported their extortionist landlords, and refused even to discuss reunification with the North. The peasants watched as all of this was presided over by United States influence, then by increasing numbers of United States troops who came to help quell the insurgency that Diem's methods had aroused. When Diem was overthrown, they may have been happy, but the long line of military dictators seemed to offer no real change, especially in terms of their need for land and peace. The only change came from America, as we increased our troop commitments in support of governments which were singularly corrupt inept and without popular support. All the while the people read our leaflets and received the regular promises of peace and democracy and land reform. Now they languish under our bombs and consider us not their fellow Vietnamese, the real enemy. They move sadly and apathetically as we herd them off the land of their fathers into concentration camps where minimal social needs are rarely met. They know they must move on or be destroyed by our bombs. So they go, primarily women and children and aged. They watch as we poison their water, as we kill 1 million acres of their crops. They must weep as the bulldozers roar through their areas preparing to destroy the precious trees. They wandered into the hospitals with at least 20 casualties from American firepower for one Viet Cong inflicted injury. So far we may have killed 1 million of them, mostly children. They wander into the towns and see thousands of the children, homeless, without clothes, running in packs on the streets like animals. They see the children degraded by our soldiers as they beg for food. They see the children selling their sisters to our soldiers, soliciting for their mothers. What do the peasants think as we ally ourselves with the landlords, and as we refuse to put any action into our many words concerning land reform? What do they think as we test out our latest weapons on them, just as the Germans tested out new medicine and new tortures in the concentration camps of Europe? Where are the roots of the independent Vietnam we claim to be building? Is it among these voiceless ones? We have destroyed their two most cherished institutions, the family and the village. We have destroyed their land and their crops. We have cooperated in the crushing of the nation's only non-communist revolutionary political force, the unified Buddhist Church. We have supported the enemies of the peasants of Saigon. We have corrupted their women and children and killed their men. Now that is little left to build on save bitterness. Soon the only solid physical foundations remaining will be found at our military bases and in the concrete of the concentration camps we call fortified hamlets. The peasants may well wonder if we plan to build our new Vietnam on such grounds as these. If we blame them for such thoughts, we must speak for them and raise the questions they cannot raise. These two are brothers.
What Dr. King understood was that true justice was going to require solidarity with those peasants, to see things the way they saw them, to put yourself in their shoes and ask how they've come to the conclusions that they have. Dr. King also understood that our challenges are really global and that a worldwide fellowship is necessary that lifts everyone up beyond tribe, race, class, even identities of nationhood. All people banded together with the same fundamental worth and entitled to the same dignified lives as everyone else, regardless of who they are, particularly in terms of race, or gender, or any other identity. I'm not a fan of God. I've made that clear myself here. A very strong atheist, I would say. But if God is anything, then it is other people. And if to you, your love of God inspires you to see God in the hearts and minds of the other people that you interact with every day, as it did with Dr. King, I think. And I am all for that. I am all for that. Embracing an unconditional love for all humankind is the way to go. I appreciate you joining me today. That's all I've got for you today. Like I said before, you can always check me out on dissidentpeasant.com, on YouTube as Dissident Peasant. You can check me out on Twitter at JeffHisDudeness. That's JeffHisDudeness. If you want to, that's where I spend most of my social media time. If you found my page on Facebook, spend less time over there, but you can check that out too. There's also a Patreon now. You can check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/dissidentpeasant. Thanks in advance. Thanks as always. Happy MLK Day to you, and stay dissident, serfs.
Our rewards are not in heaven.
Money tough and union made.
We can fight but strong together.
Money tough and union made.
Divided we fall, united we stand.
Money tough and union made.
It's a working woman and a working man.
Money tough and union made.
We not waiting for judgment day.
Money tough and union made.
Money tough and union made.
Money tough and union made. Money tough and union made. One long struggle day by day. That's how we got to live this way.
Money tough and union made.